Hello, and welcome to Addicted to Murder. This is Courtney, licensed professional counselor with over a decade of experience.
And this is Trisha, and today's true crime quiz question, are you ready?
I hope so. It's been a while.
I know. At its most powerful in the mid-1980s, the Medellin cartel brought in roughly how much profit every day, largely cash, by smuggling cocaine? A, 5 million, B, 20 million, C, 60 million, D, 100 million.
I'm going to go with C, 60 million.
You're correct.
Hey.
Did you watch Entourage?
No.
Because, like, Vince is one of the main characters in Entourage. His whole thing is he wants to play, was it Pablo Escobar from Medellin?
Oh, okay.
The cartel. I think it was Pablo Escobar that's in that cartel. I don't know. But that's the only reason I know this word is from Entourage. Because they say it over and over again, the type of cartel it was. But, yeah, apparently 60 million a day. And that's in the 80s.
I know. So that'd be like
a shit ton today. And that, yeah, because of just like the cocaine.
Inflation.
Yeah. So
I wonder, there was that movie, what was it like Blow? Was that kind of like related to that?
I don't know
where
if
they
that
were
was
like
the same
flying
cartel,
in a bunch of cocaine.
Yeah, that was Johnny Depp. I don't know if it was the same cartel or not.
I don't know.
I mean, we can always look, but hey, we're back.
We are. Thank you all for your patience and staying with us on our little sabbatical that we took.
Our sabbaticals that we keep taking over and over again.
Yes. Life gets a little crazy.
And I haven't even asked you how school is going.
School is going good, but slowly. Just waiting on collecting my data for my dissertation so that I can run the data and finish up.
Okay. So just kind of at a pause right now.
Right.
Okay.
If anyone who listens to this happens to be a counselor with a master's degree from a K-CREP organization.
A K-CREP?
A K-CREP accredited school. Let me know, and you might qualify to be part of my study.
Okay, that's addictedtomurderpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've just been working, planning my trip to Greece.
Which is fun.
Which is in a year.
You've been doing a lot of traveling, too. I swear you're somewhere.
Just to, like, Portland or...
Well, yeah. Well, you went to the East Coast.
I did go to Philly. I forgot about that. I did go to Philly, yeah. I went and saw my East Coast family. Mm-hmm. JT and Rail High. I think Rail listens sometimes. I don't know if JT does. He's only listens to Philly sports. Only Philly sports all the Philly time.
Right.
So,
yeah.
It's all right.
So you've been working and dealing with that. I'm been going through getting divorced. So.
Oh, wow. You're bringing that up.
I am. I think I need to talk about it.
Okay.
Just a little bit to let people know, like, that's going on in my life.
Well, you're very transparent.
Yes. Well, it kind of goes along with my question that I'm going to ask today.
Fair. What's the question?
So the question is, Trisha, what is the worst first date you've ever been on?
I don't know. I don't remember. I've been with Chris for over 20 years, and I don't remember a first date really before him. Like, not the stereotypical where you don't really know the person and you meet up and then it's awkward. Like, I don't really have any of those stories. I missed out on that. But it sounds like you might have one.
Sounds like maybe you didn't miss out on much, but you got lucky.
Maybe.
And did not have to have any really terrible, awkward first dates.
So, is this first date story something that's happened recently or in your past? Like,
yeah, no, this is like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So thus, I'm not cheating on my husband. I am getting divorced and starting to see new people.
Yes.
And it also happens to be my worst first date story ever. So
of all time.
Of all time.
Because you did have dates, unlike me.
Yes. I mean, not like a ton, but I had some that were like questionable.
Okay.
But this one definitely like takes the cake as the worst. So I'm not going to name any names or anything like that. But went up to, meet up with someone that I've been talking to online for a little while. And I went up to kind of his neck of the woods because that's where we wanted to go hiking and things like that. So I was the one driving on our date. And everything was fine. We went on our hike. We were getting along okay. But just the sparks weren't there.
They just didn't feel it.
Just didn't feel it. Like, I got more of that like friend vibe, and not the romantic vibe. Okay, so friend vibe, right? And so being the modern woman that I am, I feel like transparency is important. And so kind of at the end of the date when I was dropping him back off, I just let him know like, hey, this was fun, but like not feeling the sparks. Happy to be your friend if you want to, kind of essentially is what I said.
And the fact that you did it before you dropped him off, that's kind of brave. Just
Well,
because
like,
it could be a little awkward on that ride home.
We were at the drop-off point.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, like, we were at the place where I was supposed to be dropping him off.
Okay.
Yes. And so he did not take that well and went into a lot of the, like, oh, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Why don't women ever like me? I'm destined to be alone.
Oh, dear.
Kind of stuff. And then, tried to be reassuring, like, you didn't do anything wrong. I just wasn't feeling it,
Right.
But he was very sad and upset. And so then he was like, I don't want to go home. Can we, like, go get some ice cream? And I was like, whatever. Fine, I like ice cream. I didn't really want any, but...
Were you feeling like guilty or something? And that's why you were like, yeah, let's go get ice cream? Because I might have felt like I got the ick at that point.
I mean, I definitely had the ick. But I was also getting vibes that, like, he probably shouldn't be left alone.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure. Okay.
And I didn't know enough to, like, feel safe as a human being about, like, leaving him alone.
Okay. So you went to go get ice cream.
So we went to go get ice cream. And while we were there at the ice cream place, it was just continuing, what can I do differently? Like, what was it? What can I change? This always happens to me. That kind of stuff. And then eventually it got to, like, I don't think I can go home because I can't promise I don't know what I'll do to myself if I go home.
Okay.
Yeah. In the middle of a Dairy Queen, by the way, is where we're having this conversation.
Okay.
And so I'm a therapist, right? I'm a mandated reporter, all those things. So
Yeah, you wouldn't be feeling good about just being like, oh, sorry.
Right, exactly. I was like,
that's your problem.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like, okay, like automatically my brain goes to, oh, you're suicidal. Great. Now I have to do this.
Did you get out your GAD checklist, your PHQ-9?
I did not, but I do have the questions to the Columbia memorized.
That's the suicidal ideation scale?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I didn't actually do that with him necessarily,
Gotcha.
but obviously I'm in my crisis evaluation mode. And so...
But was a little bit of you thinking it was bullshit?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yes, a little bit was like, are you just saying this to like manipulate me kind of a thing? And I kind of called him out on that. I was like, are you saying this for real or are you just like trying to make me feel guilty so that I'll go out with you again? And so there was a little more back and forth. And then as we were leaving, he's like, hey, like, can you promise to like, if we're friends, to come hang out with me again? And I was like, I'm going to have to think about that. Because I wasn't just going to say, like, no right there because he's in my car and I'm alone and, like, all that. But I was not going to say yes.
Okay.
And so in response to me being like, can I think about it, was to tell me that he definitely needed to go to the hospital.
Okay.
Because he wanted to shoot himself.
Oh.
In my car with a gun that he didn't have.
I was going to say, was he...
No, he was in my car when he said it, though.
This is why you have to be very careful when you go on dates, ladies.
Yes.
And men. I mean, it doesn't matter. You don't know who you're with and if they're packing.
Right, yes. Fortunately, the Dairy Queen is like 2 blocks from the local hospital up there.
Okay.
So took him straight over, like walked him in, tried to leave after he got checked in. And, I'm a very compassionate person. And so when he asked me to stay, I stayed. Too long.
How long did you stay?
Like 4 hours. Yeah, please don't do that. If you can get out right away, you should do that.
He's in a secure environment at that
Right.
point.
Yeah.
But you stayed.
But I stayed. until the crisis worker got there to do an evaluation on him.
Because it took that long to get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so finally, she gets there. She's like, hey, I need to talk to him alone. Let me walk you out to the waiting room. And I was like, okay, yes, this is my chance. And so I told her on the walk out that I was like, yeah, this was all because, like, literally this was our first date that we've ever been on. And, like, I said, I wasn't interested. And, like, this is what spurred the whole thing. And so she was like, do you want to escape instead of wait? And I was like, yes, please. So I left as quickly as I could.
She could feel like your
She knew.
desperation to get out of there.
I think she could. And so I left and drove home and left him at the hospital, at which point I surmised later that he was not honest about his feelings with the crisis worker, left against medical advice, and then proceeded to call me 6 times on my drive home and text me a whole bunch of times on my drive home because I left him there without a ride home.
What were his texts saying? Were they mad that you left him there, or were they still, like, saying suicidal type things?
Some of it was like, I can't believe you left. And some of it was like, please, please, please answer the phone. It's really important. I need to talk to you. Please give me a chance. Just answer the phone. And so then I blocked him. So
that sounds awful.
yes.
But also, like, what is like your thought of like what he's doing? Because to me, it sounds very manipulative. And you called his bluff and took him to the hospital.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what do you think he wanted? The end game, like for you to be together forever?
So what I surmised is he was looking for a way out of his living situation. Because he didn't say that directly, but like had talked about like how he can't escape living there and like.
So he thought you could be like a meal ticket in a way.
Or like if I could be the one person that truly cares about him, then maybe like he could come live with me and not have to live with his family when he's 38 years old. So,
well, that sounds like a horrible first date.
yeah, it wasn't great.
And very long.
It was a very long first date. It was a 12-hour first date.
Yeah, and then you still had to
Drive
home after
home.
that, which was a couple hours or an hour or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Did that date change how you might go on dates with people you don't know in the future? Are you still like super optimistic about these first dates, or are you a little more leery now?
I think so. Full disclosure, prior to the date, during talking, there were some like yellow flags of some like love bombing kind of behaviors.
Got it.
So like I had my radar up already.
Yeah.
But probably like the one thing I would change would be maybe listening to that instinct a little bit more. Because also I was out of the dating game for 15 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it works anymore. Still figuring that out. And probably just sticking local.
Yeah.
Like
That's
in
easier.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah, not somewhere that like there's a lot of travel to get to. Unless like I don't know, some magical person comes into my life. But they can come to me for the first date.
Totally. Does he know about your podcast?
Mm,
Is he going to listen to this?
I think he knew I had one, but he didn't know the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even if he does listen to this, like,
Yeah.
dude, wake up, go to therapy,
Right.
change your behavior.
Yeah. That you shouldn't make someone feel responsible for your life or your death like that.
Right.
That's not fair, even especially if you're bullshitting about it, which maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but
Also, just to point out, if you are on a date with someone that you know is a therapist, don't tell them that you don't believe in therapy.
Oh,
That's not going to go well either.
right. That just seems like trying to start a fight.
Right. It's like, that's literally what I do for a living,
Right.
and you're telling me that you don't believe in what I do.
Well, that's messed up.
Yeah. Anyway.
If any of you guys have first dates that were as awful as that,
Please send them to us.
that would be
You might
great.
get a shout out or
yeah, that would be
something
fun.
like that. Yes.
Thank you for that, Courtney. Okay, well, after we've heard that, we're going to actually get into our tale,
Right, our actual case
our
this
actual
time.
case. So, this is not a serial killer case, but it is about a murder that took place in Oregon. And the book we're using for our research is called Dead by Sunset, and it's by Anne Rule. And
So you know it's good.
yeah, it's a good read. And with my dog's tap dancing, so try to ignore that. So as with a lot of her books, she'll use fake names to protect their identities. I believe those are called what, pseudonyms?
Yes, pseudonyms.
I'll try to make that distinction. I might miss it, but anyhow. So this story is also going to be told a little differently because we're going to start with the murder and then learn about the people involved in the victim's life, as well as the main man in the middle of all of this.
Right.
And the victim's name is Cheryl Keaton, and her body was found most mysteriously on September 21st, 1986. And drivers on the Sunset Highway, or it's also known as Route 26 in like Portland area, they were swerving suddenly around a van that looked like it was like parked in the middle of the highway. And one person that was seeing this happen ahead was like, why are these people swerving around or whatever? He decided he'd investigate because why the heck was this van parked this way? And he stopped partially because he saw an infant seat in the back of the van. No children are killed in this. I'm just throwing that out there. But there was a car seat. And the van was like perpendicular to the median. And it was still accelerating. So it would like, bounce off that concrete barrier, like go forward, then bounce off, then, like that. And that's why these people were having to go way around it. So then when the Good Samaritan, I'm going to call him, he, pulled over, he was able to open the van and he saw a figure in the front seat. It was dark out. The head, though, was tucked down like towards the chest. And he saw that it must be a woman when he saw a purse jammed against the accelerator. And that was why the van kept leaping forward. There was no child in the child's seat, so it was empty. And there was wet stuff everywhere, but it was hard to tell what it was because of how dark it was. But on some level, he knew that it must be blood. You probably could smell it. It's probably thick and viscous. But he continued to try to help, and he got blood all over himself in the process. And the way that the body was laying was that she was kind of across both front seats. Her back was on the passenger seat, and her legs were over the gear shift, like kind of on the driver's seat. So after some maneuvering, the man was able to push her legs over and get the van off the road. And once the van was off the road, the man assessed the woman, and she appeared to be lifeless. He really couldn't tell much about her because she was in such bad shape. And per the book, he did notice that, quote, one of her eyes protruded grotesquely, as big as a hard-boiled egg. Even if he had known this woman, he would never have recognized her. So, Courtney, quite a start to this tale, and how awful and confusing it would be to come across this scene. Any thoughts?
I mean, beyond just confusing, I would call this probably a traumatic experience for that Good Samaritan who stopped to help.
Yeah.
Couldn't have imagined that that's
Right.
what he was going to find.
Right.
And obviously, the imagery of it stuck with him.
Well, emergency vehicles were called to the scene, but it was too late for the woman. The paramedics later described her head as looking like mincemeat. Brain matter was possibly oozing out of her skull, and based on how the blood was reacting, it was thought that she had been dead for about 30 minutes by this point. The police showed up trying to figure out what happened. The Toyota van was in good shape, so it was not a car wreck. The police looked through her purse, hoping to figure out who the woman was, and her license and checkbook bore the same name, Cheryl Keaton, date of birth 10/27/49. They could not be certain this was her, however, because the damage to her face made it impossible to match the photo on the license. The investigators headed to the address they had found, and when they arrived, a man was there, and he identified himself as Cheryl's brother. And when the officer told her brother, named Jim, the tragic news, Jim responded with, quote, "He did it. That bastard did it." Courtney, any thoughts on who this he may be?
Well, statistically, he is most likely to be a current or former romantic partner, like a boyfriend or husband.
Well, once the police were able to ascertain that the dead woman was indeed Cheryl Keaton, they had others they needed to inform. Their next stop was to go to Brad Cunningham's apartment. Brad was Cheryl's ex-husband and the father to their 3 children. Due to her brother's outburst and his later explanation of Cheryl and Brad's strained relationship, that she was fearful of him. She was so fearful, in fact, that when she left that evening to meet Brad to get his kids, she left a note saying that, quote, "I have gone to pick up the boys from Brad at the mobile station next to the IGA. If I'm not back, please come and find me. And in capital letters, come right away." So she obviously was fearful of this man. She left the strict instruction.
Right.
If she didn't come back, that he did something to her. And
Right.
Jim gave this note to the cops. She had also spoken to her mother that evening, and her mother had begged her not to meet him alone. Because of all this, the police were not sure what to expect, so they brought backup officers when they went to Brad's apartment. 4 investigators knocked on Bradley Cunningham's door, and when he was informed of his ex-wife's death, one officer noted that he did not have a reaction. Now, not everyone emotes the same way, but it still stuck out to the investigator on how little Brad reacted. In fact, his first question was, quote, "Was it in a traffic accident?" When he was told no, he then asked, "Well, how was she killed?" and was told that was under investigation. So, Courtney, supposing it was the bastard, as Jim said, I'm thinking that he had hoped that a car would have been struck on the highway, making it look like an accident had caused all those injuries. Would you agree? I mean, it's kind of a weird leap to just directly jump to, was it a traffic accident?
Right. I mean, it certainly does sound like he maybe had some insider information. A bad car accident would be a convenient cover-up to a murder.
Right.
Right.
And that would have been a good place to do it, a busy highway.
Absolutely. There could have been lots of potential perpetrators driving a car.
Yeah. His next question did indeed trigger a red flag to the investigators. It was, did he need a lawyer? He then told investigators that he had not seen Cheryl for a couple of days. He did talk to her on the phone, and she told him she would come to his apartment to pick up the boys, and she never showed up. And this did not line up with the note that she left Jim, saying that they were meeting at the gas station where they would make the exchange. They spoke with him for several hours. Brad would insinuate that his ex-wife was always out with all kinds of men, mostly attorneys. She was an attorney herself. He was making it clear that Cheryl was an immoral woman whose partying and other men came before her sons. She was a bad mother, and he was an amazing father. The lead investigator did manage to ask Brad twice if he killed his ex-wife. The second time had Brad calling as an attorney, which ended the evening's questioning. Courtney, thoughts?
This is very common, especially when we're looking at intimate partner violence, for the abuser to try and discredit and dehumanize the victim as an attempt to either justify their own actions or to try and paint the victim as somebody who maybe had many possible enemies who could be alternative suspects. I mean, if the police believed that Cheryl was a bad person and a bad mom, they might not work so hard on the investigation. And it also allowed Brad to try and make himself look good in comparison.
Well, and you and I have seen this kind of play out in real life.
Absolutely.
Where investigations go nowhere.
Right.
Because the way that the victim is painted, or they're not credible, or they would make a bad witness, or blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Myriad of other things.
Exactly.
They can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt,
right.
Starting from investigators all the way to, prosecution.
Right, yeah. And even so far as to, the perpetrator can afford a good lawyer and the victim can't.
Right. And that would be, I guess, a civil situation. But
right.
Okay, listeners, we'll get some more psychological insights down the road with Brad, but this episode we're going to be talking more about the murder and Cheryl. So the next day, Dr. Karen Gunson, who was the deputy state medical examiner at the time, as well as a forensic pathologist, started her analysis of Cheryl's remains. She was just beginning her career, but by this point she had performed over 300 autopsies. But this one would be very memorable to her. The victim had more injuries than most any other body she had examined. It was estimated that Cheryl had been hit at least 24 times. Cheryl's body was very, very thin, nearly emaciated. She was 37 years old. She was about 5'5", but only weighed 100 pounds. Her facial bones were fractured, but her skull was not. She had 6 fractures to the left mastoidal area, and that's like the part, near your jaw. There was bruising to her left upper neck, Her left ear cartilage was fractured. There were contusions and cuts all over her face, her eyelids, her cheeks, her mouth. She had 4 broken teeth. Her upper jaw had been broken as well as part of her lower jaw, and the blows that didn't break her teeth had displaced them. When her brain was examined, there was extensive hemorrhaging. She had a large hematoma on the right side of her brain. She suffered, quote, contra coupe injuries. So basically, this is what I looked up what that meant. If you're hit on one side of the head, the brain will bounce around in the skull. And this type of injury happens to infants who get shaken. Cheryl likely had her head against something like a wall or a floor, and the other side of her head was taking a beating. And so her brain was just bouncing against her skull.
Right, bouncing back and forth.
The side that was against a solid object. Even though she was a very thin woman, it was clear she still fought back. She had defensive wounds on her left arm and her shoulders. Her legs and feet were bruised as well, which may be indicative of her kicking her attacker. And there was a weird injury to her waist, a linear mark where her jeans were. It was thought that Cheryl had lived for mere minutes after sustaining all of these injuries. They were so violent. There was no indication of sexual assault to Cheryl. The only thing in her stomach was a brown liquid thought to be coffee. There was nothing but her own blood under her fingernails. They could only speculate on the weapon used in the attack, perhaps a tire iron, maybe like a Maglite flashlight. Courtney, a couple of things. When I go through a particularly stressful time, I lose my appetite. I have a feeling based on the fear it seems like Cheryl had of Brad that she might be like this as well. She was undernourished when she was killed. She was killed in the evening, and the only thing in her stomach was coffee. Can you explain why some people, when they're stressed, do not eat, and some use food for comfort? This may be more of a medical thing than a psychological, but I bet there's a connection. Also, what category do you fall into?
So, on a biological level, there is a reason for this actually. So, during times of like acute stress, the body goes into fight or flight, essentially. And when this reaction is triggered, hormones like adrenaline actually work to shut down the digestive system and other sort of more internal systems. And so that reduces the production of hormones that indicate hunger, and blood is moving away from the stomach towards the extremities to be prepared to run or fight. So additionally, right, it's common for anxiety to cause things like nausea and other digestive symptoms. So when someone is in a high stress state, so in that full-on fight or flight, yeah, their body is no longer telling them that they're hungry because it's busy trying to survive, right? On the other hand, chronic stress is more often tied to comfort eating, as sustained elevated cortisol levels. Cortisol is what we call like the stress hormone, essentially. That can lead to cravings of energy dense, aka high calorie foods, like things that are high in fat or sugar, like ice cream, as opposed to things that are nutrient dense foods like blueberries or spinach or something. Right. And so it really depends on the intensity of the trauma response that's being experienced. Cheryl, it seems, really was in that constant fear for her life and safety, which would suggest that she was likely experiencing a more prolonged acute stress response.
Does any of this acute stress response have anything to do with like the GLP-1s and stuff that we hear about? Like that's shutting down the hormone for hunger? Are they, do you know if they're like the same hormone or something
I'm
totally
not sure
different?
about that.
Okay. That just popped up when it was like, makes you not hungry. Okay. Second question. So this appears to be a pretty personal attack. Would you agree? I mean,
yeah.
It looks like the injuries were mostly blows to the face. What is it about a more personal attack that causes this type of injury compared to something that may not involve the face, like a blow from behind or even just being shot from behind or something like that?
I mean, there is a lot of rage required to land 24 blows to the face that are strong enough to break facial bones. And so whoever beat Cheryl to death wanted to completely eliminate her from existence by literally destroying her face, which is her identity. And by destroying her identity, the killer is also kind of destroying her humanity and personhood. And so that type of rage comes from something personal. You don't just feel that type of rage about a stranger.
Well, Brad Cunningham would take 5 wives. Cheryl was his fourth. So let's learn a little bit about Cheryl and how she and Brad got together. So the story is going to go back and forth a little bit, but I wanted to speak more about Cheryl since we just learned about her gruesome death. Like, who is this woman?
Right.
So Cheryl Keaton was born on October 27th, 1949 in Longview, Washington. Her parents were Floyd and Betty, and she had a sister, Susan, and we already met her brother, Jim. She was thought to have had a good childhood, and she was a good student. She attended the University of Washington with ambitions to become a lawyer and majored in economics. She joined a sorority and was a popular co-ed. And I'm pretty sure her and Brad, who also went to UW, went at the same time as Ted Bundy.
Well, that's a fun fact.
They overlapped, I think, by like a year
Ah.
or something like that. So anyways, who knows? Maybe they were in classes together. Cheryl would marry a man named Dan that she met in college, and Cheryl's good friend Lauren, who I think is a false name, but she went to college with them, and she started to date a man named Brad Cunningham, who at the time was married to his second wife. More on that later. Cheryl at this time was working an office job while her husband Dan went to law school. So she would attend law school as well once they could afford it. And at the same time, Lauren became the third wife to Brad. The couples hang out a lot. So Cheryl and Dan's hanging out a lot, and Brad and Lauren are hanging out a lot. And Cheryl eventually started to go to law school. They were able to figure it out so they could both go. Brad was doing something in finance, and he offered Cheryl a job at the company he worked at to help her make some money. And she accepted that job. She was attending law school full-time and working with Brad part-time. So this was in 1977, I believe, and Lauren was pregnant with Brad's child. So we will learn throughout this case how charming and good-looking Brad Cunningham is. It wasn't long before Cheryl and Brad started to see each other. Dan, Cheryl's husband, was suspicious, and he shared that suspicion with Lauren. Thanksgiving rolled around, and Cheryl and Dan decided to divorce. And the following month, while Lauren was very pregnant with their child, Brad told her he wanted a divorce. He wanted a life with Cheryl. To make matters worse, Brad had convinced Lauren to quit her job as a teacher just before this announcement. So now she was 6 months pregnant, forced to find her own place without a job. I can only imagine how stressful that would be for her. Had she known this would have happened, she would have stayed in her union job where she would have had medical benefits and paid maternity leave.
Right.
Brad urged her to leave, knowing what he was going to do. What an asshole. Suffice to say, her friendship with Cheryl was over as well. I don't understand the type of hold Brad held over people, but Cheryl, who was a kind person, had done something out of character. She was actually the one who physically handed the divorce papers over to Lauren when she and Brad served her former very good friend.
Man.
Okay, I didn't want to paint her victim in a negative light. I'm just showing you how manipulative I feel Brad Cunningham is. I don't think that Cheryl would have done a lot of these things without his manipulations. Courtney, I know this was a very brief synopsis of how Cheryl and Brad came to be, but what are your thoughts at this time?
Even in this short explanation, it's clear that Brad, at least, has a pattern of behavior that includes infidelity and control. He started seeing Lauren when he was still married to wife number 2, and then convinced her to make choices that would lead her to be financially dependent on him. And then he started a relationship with Cheryl while still married to Lauren, and convinced her to make choices that would lead her to be more isolated by losing friendships. I mean, all of these just big red flags for intimate partner violence, like all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Cheryl and Brad would marry soon after their divorces were final. Lauren would marry another man and have Brad's child. Brad, as we will soon learn, felt that his children were his property, and he would do anything, even possibly murder, to have them in his possession. What this meant for his wives was a miserable and scary experience. Cheryl would possibly never get over her guilt for what happened with Lauren. Her only excuse or reason was that she was so deeply in love that her reason left the building. Her, reasonability left the building. Her sister noticed a change in Cheryl when she was with Brad as well. She used to be confident and took charge, but with Brad, she became passive. She deferred to Brad for everything. She adored him, and she did anything she could to be sure he adored her. Her sister could see she was completely smitten with Brad, but she also suspected that she might be fearful. Courtney, what are your thoughts on this? It looks like Cheryl's personality has completely changed since she and Brad became an item. All speculation, but what do you think might be happening?
My best guess is that Brad is likely a narcissist of some kind who has successfully love bombed and gaslit Cheryl into being the woman he wants her to be, so that when he does shift into more overt abusive behaviors, she will be too vulnerable and isolated to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is as we will see going through this case, and all of his wives, it's almost like Henry VIII, all of his wives, he is a poster child for a domestic violence abuser. Like,
Right.
you look up domestic violence, you look up Brad Cunningham.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I'm
we'll
sure
see
we'll
that.
talk a lot more about love bombing and gaslighting as we go.
Yeah. So, but that's where we're going to end today. So basically, we're just going to recap this. Mysterious circumstance for Cheryl's body to be found.
Yep.
Wasn't a car accident. Someone did this to her. Who did it?
Right.
And
Someone with a lot of rage towards her.
yes. And who is Brad? We're going to find that out our next episode. The whole next episode is pretty much about Brad and his childhood and first wife.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, stay safe, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.